behind that. What do you guys want to hear? You want to hear a story about Houston, or do you want to hear a story about astronauts?
Astronauts!
Astronaut story is sad. Alright. So, a few years back, I was living in Pittsburgh, and my friend Marcelo, who lived in Boston, who I'd met through a magazine. Actually, I'm getting this all out of order. Marcelo was the editor of an online humor magazine called Closet Elvis, which had nothing to do with closets, metaphorically or literally, or Elvis. And I was one of the writers for it. And after the magazine crashed and burned, Marcelo came down with a heart condition. He got a cold and it went to his heart, and he ended up getting a large heart. And he had to go to the hospital where they did a lot of work for him. And he actually turned it into a one-man play, because Marcelo makes a joke out of everything. And so he made jokes about it. When he was in the hospital, when he was initially getting looked at and they were preparing him for surgery, like one of the interns told him, like, you know, you're so bad right now, I bet you couldn't run to the end of this hallway and survive. And Marcelo said, how much you bet? And then they installed a defibrillator, and he went back to work to meet his friends. His friends didn't know what had happened. Like this girl who hadn't seen him, was like, where you been, Marcelo? And hit him in the chest. Right at the trigger point. And he's like, oh man, I've been around. And as soon as he walked away, he turned to his friends who knew. He's like, bitch punched me in the defibrillator. So he decided to celebrate having the surgery and getting through it with a Marcelo's Not Dead party. And he lived in Boston, I lived in Pittsburgh, of course, I was going to drive out and see him. And I was like, okay, great, I'm going to go all the way out there and just drive across Pennsylvania and listen to NPR. This was a Saturday, I like NPR. And I was listening to the news, and they said, like, oh yeah, well, coming up, This American Life, and what do you know? And we just got word that Space Shuttle Columbia is due to land shortly, so we'll give you those reports. And then a little later they said, oh yeah, we just got word that the landing's been delayed. And that, of course, was the day that Columbia blew up and fell apart over Texas. And I listened to the coverage for hours as I was driving across Pennsylvania. And even to the point, like, NPR was just covering it nonstop. They canceled all their shows, and they called in people, actually people from NASA called them in. One of their science guy actually came in. He said, as soon as I heard you say the landing's been delayed, I knew there's been something's wrong, because they don't delay the landings. It's coming in. Like, it's not flying in, it's all gravity. And if it's been delayed, something's gone wrong with gravity. So, and it was hard to listen to, because they called the experts. They called the guys who knew the people, and one of the guys from NASA was explaining, yeah, well, we don't know what the results are. And we hear it's disintegrated. And the host asked me, like, well, do you know if there are any survivors? Could any of them have survived this? And this is a NASA guy. Like, it's not an abstract thing for him. These are his friends. And there was just no answer on the other end. He just started hearing the choking sound. And the reporter just kind of was like, okay, well, thank you for your time. And I was just overdosing on this as I'm driving to see my friend who has not died. And we're going to celebrate the fact that he's not died. These astronauts have died. I couldn't take it anymore, so I took out the CD that I always have with me. Neutral Milk Hotels in the Aeroplane Over the Sea. And some of you know this album. Those of you who don't know it, go find it. I actually use it as a litmus test, because I've had friends who listened to it and did not enjoy it. And these friends have no soul. It's a dividing line. And so I was listening to the album, and the title track came on, Aeroplane Over the Sea, which has the lyric, one day we will die, and our ashes will fly from the aeroplane over the sea. And I had to pull over, because it broke me. And what made it worse was when I finally finished listening to the album, I was on the road again. I'd reached the middle of Pennsylvania, where the Christian stations object to NPR. And they object to the liberal bias of NPR. So what they do is they buy up the bandwidth on either side of NPR stations and overcrank their signal, so they will wash out NPR. So the middle of the state doesn't actually hear a lot of news reports. They just get Christian broadcasts, which made me wonder what happened on 9/11. If people were listening to the radio, they may not have heard the news. And so there's a space of this active ignorance being imposed on people. And that was my experience. I was like, oh my God, there are people who probably don't know this has happened yet. And it's hurting me a lot, because I grew up in America. I wanted to be an astronaut. Everyone who breathes wants to be an astronaut. And I made it to Boston, had the party, it was fun, it was fine. But what actually makes me think about that story today is, of course, yesterday, Sally Ride died. And I heard the news this morning that she had died. And also, they revealed in her obituary that she was a lesbian. And it's kind of awesome to me. Like, Sally Ride is a hero to me. Not just because she's an astronaut and astronauts are awesome, but she made it cool for women to be into science. And I'm an English guy, I'm a lit guy. Scientist girls are hot. And so, yes, thank you, Sally Ride, for making science cool for girls. And now, there's this person who's unequivocally an American hero, who is also a gay American. And these things just keep happening. And it just makes it more absurd that Pennsylvania, like many states, has banned gay marriage, has bans on people being gay, working with government places, working for schools. And it's, all these things are one step closer to making it better. And this is like the nature of death. Because I had a friend who died earlier this summer too, and it's just, I do not believe in God, I do not believe in heaven, I do not believe in a soul. But the good people do last. The good Sally Ride did has last. The good my friend did has last. And grief is something we travel through. And so I wanted to come up here and basically say thank you to Sally Ride, thank you to my friend, and to everyone who's passing through the space of grief. I hope you come through okay, but come home. We miss you.